Hi, I'm Davia, she, her, and you're.
Oh, I'm Viridian. I really go by any. Don't have much of a preference.
Okay, great. So, how did you know you didn't want children?
Okay, I'm going to be completely honest. When I was young, I was like very selfish as a child. So when my mother was like, "Oh, do you want a younger sibling?" I was like, "No," because then I'd have to deal with sharing my cornflakes and sharing my cereal, and I was not like big on sharing. But I think when I kind of like grew up more, and then I started being surrounded by my younger cousins, and we have to babysit a lot, I was like, "Yeah, maybe this isn't really for me." And I think then growing up even more past that and watching my female cousins, many of who had to deal with like teenage pregnancy, I'm watching
Oh,
how they deal with that, how they struggle with finding the financial
mm,
backing to get their children to school, get like baby formula, feeding, all these things.
wow.
And then ultimately, I think the what like set the nail into the coffin for everything is when my mom decided, okay, then I'm going to adopt
Mm,
a child. I am 20. This child is like 4. There's like a ridiculous age gap. I have to be babysitting. And then I'm just realizing, wow, this is maybe a bit too much for me because I have to be mentally aware, I have to
yeah.
be emotionally mature, and I have to have the finances to
Mm.
really take care of all of this. So I just decided, maybe children isn't really in my line of what I can handle. But how did you know that you didn't want children?
I knew from a very young age. I was always selfless. My mother said I would give away my lungs and breathe through my heart. But I just knew that I needed, like, when I'm around people, I kind of give of myself a lot. And I now know, like, in my adulthood, that I need, like, 80% of my time to be alone
Oh, I
to
agree.
then be able to
I,
function in
so
the
I
world.
agree.
So, so I actually can't really have kids running around the house or people around me constantly. I do need that private time a lot. But also, when I was 9, I have 3 sisters, and when I was 9, we had 2 more
Oh
kids,
God.
2 brothers, and they were nothing like my sisters. We were always very calm. We used to fight, but nothing still. But the boys, we basically had to raise them. Our parents are already, oh, we've done this 3 times. They kind of checked out a little bit. And we were just there with our kid brothers, just changing diapers, taking care of them in the evenings. Sometimes they'd go out on a Friday night and we take care of these kids and they would just be so wild. And I just knew I can't do this.
Oh yeah.
Like, they
No,
stress
I
me
agree.
out. I get so angry. I don't want to be angry at them. I don't want to be this yelling person. And I realized that the parenthood isn't for me. But it's not just, those aren't the only reasons. There's so many, like, physically being able to carry a child would be
Oh.
impossible for me. Like, it's already like I have so many physical issues that,
And then
you
like
know,
9 months of that.
exactly. And like medical mysteries that I haven't figured out yet. So it's just a lot of taxing on my body, financially, as you said, physically, mentally. I'm just not able to. So I've thought about adoption, like when I'm 50 and well off, but
I thought about it too.
yeah.
But I don't think I could adopt a child. Maybe like a
No, a teen. I
teenager.
was never thinking child.
Because those are a hassle.
No, I would think I'd adopt a teen at like when I'm old and it's just like a conversation. But
Yeah.
they
Because at least
also
then
have,
they've already kind of been
yeah.
through the worst of it.
No, but they also have a lot of needs because they've been through so
Yeah.
much as well. So it's still a lot to consider, and I think a lot of people don't take that into consideration when they start.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of go at it kind of without like proper thought. It sometimes it just happens though. Like
Yeah,
you don't get to prepare. But I feel like there's a stigma around it where maybe everyone just thinks, okay, having a child is just that. It's just having a child.
it's
Everything
expected.
will like resolve itself. And then I'm thinking about the long term things like, oh, eventually I'm going to have to send this child to school, lunch money. I have to be able to buy all this food. I need to make sure that their needs are met. Like you're gonna have to like, get them a cell phone and stuff like that. And then you're looking at all the bills and it piles up, and you're like, wow, this is pretty much an investment, really.
Yeah.
It's a lot of things that are going into it, and I think we kind of ignore that. We just say, oh, it's just having a child.
Yeah, because it's the expectation, and they say like it feels natural to them, so
Yeah.
they don't take all of these considerations. It's just like something that you must do that will eventually happen, and you don't really start to think about all the little things. Like for me, I'm also a climate activist, and I just can't imagine bringing somebody else in this world with it because every time I have to like stand up and fight for something that should be just expected for us to have, like fresh water and fresh air, I feel so angry that I'm here and have to do all of this. And I don't want to bring another child to do all that again. Like to actually have to suffer through how we decided that the earth has to be, like how we decided that we have to push everybody into this fuel them into this work. Like the earth shouldn't be what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't think I want to bring, but I could help somebody else, like a child somewhere.
Yeah,
But
if I can help, I think I
if I
definitely
can,
will.
yeah, later on.
Later on. I need to get myself there first.
Exactly. Like we have to struggle to build ourselves up, and I don't want that for somebody else. It's crazy. So how does being child-free affect your healthcare needs?
Well, I'm fortunate, again, as a man, I don't really have a lot of things that I'd change about myself personally
Yeah.
to meet my child-free standards. So it's pretty much the same, really, make sure my blood pressure is where it should be, sugar is where it should be. But I think one of the things that kind of came up, which not so much as a need, but more like a want, is this idea that, okay, I need to be in the best possible position to make sure that I don't run this risk. Because, even condoms right now are only like 98% effective. So a vasectomy could be something that I would want to like explore in the future. I think I would fall into there as like, okay, then this is something that only comes about because I want to be child-free.
Yeah, that's true. For me, I don't actually need anything specific either, because I know I don't want a child, but so far it hasn't been an issue. I'm always, wearing protection and all of that. But like I said, it's not 100% efficient, so an accident could happen. And I hope that when or if something like that happens, God forbid, that I would have access to my healthcare needs, that I could be able to make the decisions for myself. I know that's not the case right now.
Oh.
And it scares me a little. It scares me a lot, actually, because I don't actually want to have to choose to do an abortion, but I would definitely want a choice. But my, prevention is my main thing, because of how much comes with that and how stressful it seems to be able to, like, to have to be alone and thinking of all those things and not even knowing where to go is kind of stressful. But I try not to think about it a lot. I would love if I could prevent it completely and just take out my uterus. Not even a hysterectomy, because I would still have periods, and I'd rather not have that. So I would just rather take that whole thing out. But I don't have access to that either. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So what would you say it is like for you to navigate the healthcare system as a person who, doesn't want children?
So I don't really interface with the healthcare system in that way because of what's not available. So I don't really actually, if I could say what it's like, I don't go to any doctors to say, hey, this is what I am. I'm child free. I'd rather continue to be that way because I know there's nothing here for me to do. I could take contraceptives, but they have so many side effects, and I'm just not interested in that at all. The only thing I'm interested in is taking out my uterus, and I know that they won't do that. For someone who hasn't had a child yet, is young, they think I'll change my mind. I know I won't, but
I always think you're going to change your mind. They always think you're going to change your mind.
They do. People say that to me all the time. Like when I was in high school, and I would tell people, "Oh no, that's not the life that I would want for myself." They're like, "Oh, you're gonna change your mind. What if your mother didn't have you?" You know.
Oh. 5.
So why do you think
4?
you wouldn't change your mind?
Oh, well, I know that I can't change my mind when it comes to carrying an actual child, because physically I'm not able to do that. Like, I haven't described my health issues, but I have flat feet, so like just standing for more than 5 minutes is painful. Have back problems, knees, just in general, a lot of things that I don't know what's wrong either. So having a child inside me is even the thought, with or without the health problems, without even the thought of having a child inside me feeding off me is kind of creepy to me. And I know a lot of people do it, and it's this great human sacrifice, but it's also a choice, and it should be a choice. And if you want to do it, then it should be this glorious, happy thing. And if you don't want to do it, then you shouldn't have to at all. And I definitely do not. But when it comes to having a child outside of that, like outside of the physicality of carrying a child now, yes, I am open to adoption, but I know that it's not something I want. It's just something I would do if I'm needed. So again, it's more about me giving of myself than actually trying to figure out what I want, which I know is to have 80% of my time being alone at home, and then coming out to socialize with people, and then helping out where I can. If you need me to babysit, I can. But not my preference. What is it like for you navigating the healthcare system as a person who doesn't want children?
Well, I can say I agree with you on the experience of I don't interface with the healthcare system in that manner. I don't really interface with the healthcare system much at all because I'm the type of person that doesn't really like going to the doctors too much. You know, they usually have like all these medications that they prescribe, and I'm just not financially capable of covering everything. So I try to avoid the doctors wherever I can. I'm a Jamaican person. We have tea for everything. I can work with that. But yeah, I'm fortunate enough to just not have to deal with that. I don't think if I go to the doctors, they'll bring up anything saying, oh, you know, you're child free. This changes everything. We're going to give you this procedure instead. I don't really have that. And at current, I haven't actually spoken to any doctors about my goal of having a vasectomy because I think that's like more of like a long-term goal. I don't really do much around right now to say, okay, I need this right now. I'm just focusing on work mostly. So I don't think I've had any issues navigating it. But my next question for you would be, what do you think, you know, what do you wish more people would want to know about, you know, us who don't like having children, who don't want to have children?
Yeah, so the main thing is I may not change my mind, like we discussed before. So stop, trying to push me in this one direction. But also that we don't hate children. And I'm completely willing to be there for children. I think we're necessary in society, people without children, because they kind of perform this role for kids that parents can't, which is the childless person that they can go to for advice, someone who they can relate to more. It's also just you have less of that in the household, so you go out and you provide these supportive roles that are completely necessary for people to be brought up. And I do that all the time I interact with children a lot through my activism, women's rights activism, children's rights activism. And I think that's necessary for society. And not I'm saying parents can't do that. It's just that generally in my experience, they don't. They care about their children and their household, but for us, we have to care about the rest of the world because we're living in it. So we have to, it's like, how they say it takes a village. No one likes that saying, but it really does. So it's not that we hate children, it's just that our lifestyle that we choose is different. And it doesn't mean that we're selfish, we're not thinking of other people, because these are still hypothetical children. Like, who are you being selfish towards? And I've never been a selfish person, so I know that's not the issue. That's not why we chose not to.
No, I agree with that. The other day, someone was like, oh, it's so selfish of you to not want to have children or to want to be able to go about your day without your children. Because I'm not afraid to admit that I have my fair share of mental breakdowns. And sometimes I just want to just be by myself. I mean, the most recent time in May, I was gone for like maybe 2.5 weeks. I wasn't talking to anyone. Having a child in that situation, how would I even go about that? It's a toddler. I need to be there for my child. And then mentally, I'm not even present right now. So how would I even go about it? And everyone is saying, oh, but it's so selfish for you to want to be able to just leave your child like that. But I'm saying, which child is not even there yet? But I do agree with you that, we don't hate children. I think they need to really acknowledge that, because I think children are amazing sometimes. They're adorable. They can be sweet, even though they can be very devious miscreants. I think they can be very charming in their own right. But we are also very much aware of our choice. We have thought about this probably longer than they have when they thought about having kids. And we've decided, okay, we know that this is just not for us. Because again, I have experienced being raised by my mother, and my mother had 3 of us now with the one that she adopted. And with parents, how parents really learn how to parent better is through trial and error. So my brother, how he was raised, she learned from that and she raised me differently. And then she learned from me and then she raised my younger brother differently. And I think not that experience of me not having like the perfect parenting, I don't really know how best to do certain things. I'm not always mentally present. I'm not always emotionally mature. Sometimes I know that I will get upset over some simple things. Like the other day, my little brother, he broke my glasses and I was fuming. But I think in that space, I need to also be able to say, okay, then I need to be bigger than this. So maybe not hitting children right now would be the thing. So I think I'm just not in a space where I can have kids, and I've acknowledged that. But I think they think that, we haven't, so they keep pushing that agenda off. You change your mind eventually. And I think another thing that I wish they knew was that sexuality has nothing to do with it. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where my close friends or even my brother, he's saying, oh, you know, you must be gay if you don't want children, because which straight person would not want children? And I'm thinking, well, I don't really see the correlation between sexuality and children. And I know a lot of gay parents who are very good at what they're doing, whether they're women and women or, you know, just men. I've seen a lot of great parents who are gay. So I don't think it has anything to do with it. But yeah, I think that's the things I really wish people did know. We've thought about this a lot.
Yeah.
And we've just come to that decision. We're at peace with it. We don't really need to change our minds. I don't see myself changing my mind. I mean, yes, maybe someday I'll be much more emotionally mature, but I think there's just so much more outside of that. Like right now, working an above minimum wage job, I don't think I could be able to tackle just rent if I was on my own. Raising a child in that economy, just, we've thought about this.
Exactly.
But yeah.
I've thought about so many different things. You said you don't know how to parent. I watch videos on parenting. I know I'm not going to do it, but I still find it interesting to think about how we talk to children and how we raise young people, because it's not just, we think of them as just little things, but they are they're little humans. So they're going to turn into us. And society depends on that. And we don't, I think people who don't have children also have to consider that, because how we deal with children changes how our society is going to grow up. So that's why I look at things like that. So I know how to relate to children. I just prefer not to do it myself, parenting.
And maybe this is less about like what I wish people knew about us who don't want children, but I think this is something that they should know on a whole. Children aren't just tools that you need to take care of. I think that's the main excuse I've always heard when they say, okay, this is why you definitely need a child. Who's going to take care of you when you're 60? Who's going to take care of you when you're 70? I'd like them to realize, or just acknowledge even, that we don't like have children for the purpose of having like a house slave or someone to take care of us. Children are more than, they're people. I think once we start removing that stigma of, okay, I'm going to have a child so that I have assistants around my house, or I have someone I can have do this for me and take care of me, because you would already know, you know, taking care of the child already is hard. So the child having to then turn around to take care of the parent is going to be equally challenging and equally hard. I wish they just acknowledge that children are more than that.
Right. And you know, anything can happen, because the child could be very young when you develop a disability, or you know, you grow older than you think, faster than you think. So I'm pretty old right now, but I could not take care of my parents right now if anything happened.
I agree. It's very hard.
Exactly. So I wouldn't want that expectation.
What do child-free people need from the medical system?
I'm going to first say affordable procedures in general. I think we actually just need to revamp how doctors even just look at some of these things. Because right now, I know you can't just walk into like a clinic or a hospital and say, hey, I want a vasectomy. Or even if you can get it done down here, it's probably very expensive. And I think that's kind of the point. Like these exorbitant prices are to like deter you. But I think we need to have these things available.
What do child-free people need from their communities for you?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the point that we might not need a lot of support. I think support really goes for people who are just overall like disadvantaged. I think I'm leaning more towards just understanding.
Right.
I think all we really need is just to be able to say, hey, I don't want to have kids. And instead of exploring this lengthy and extravagant response on, okay, here are my list of reasons, you know, this happened to me and this happened to me and I'm like this. And I have to like explain myself like it's a lawsuit kind of a situation just to say, for you to accept that, okay, I can see why you don't want children. I think we just need a little bit of understanding. Oh, you don't want to have children? Oh, that's cool. Oh, you want to have 2 children? Oh, okay, that's great. And that would be that. I don't think we need anything else after that.
Yeah, it'd be like if I said I don't like pizza and then people were like, why? How could you be so different and selfish? And why are we answering all these questions?
Yeah. Like, just state your preferences. Like, why do you want this? Oh, because you do. That's it. Mm-hmm. And that would go such a long way in every aspect, because I don't think we need to be explaining ourselves. You know, we're all individuals. We all have choices. Mm-hmm. That's that.
Right.
So what advice would you give to anyone having difficulty navigating health systems as a person who doesn't want to have children?
It's hard to give advice when the things aren't available. Like we said, if the operations and procedures aren't available, then how do we direct someone to go where they need to go? But I would, I guess I would just share my experience and let them know that they're not really alone. Like, there are a lot of people who don't want children. We just have to figure out how to best do it for ourselves. There are natural ways to make sure that you don't get pregnant, even if an accident happens, like a condom slips or something. The morning after pill is something that I have taken, but it has messed with my menstrual cycle, and I wouldn't advise it. But it's there if you need it, and it's one of the cheaper options. But when it comes to the more expensive ones, I would say for everyone should be fighting against the archaic laws against abortion, because without it, we really don't have much direction to put anyone in if anything should happen. Um, but what other advice I can give is really hard to be able to say under these circumstances. So what about you?
Yeah, I think ultimately, just in addition to that, I would want to make sure that they know that they need to like stay as educated as possible. There's a lot of information out there. We don't really share a lot of that information. I mean, the whole vitamin C overdose thing was new information to me. So I think the first advice I'd want to give them is to stay educated on what options are available for you where you are prior to even getting yourself in a position like that in the first place. So make sure you know how your body works. Make sure you know what's available for you if this happens. The morning after pill is another example of that. You know that that's there for you. I think people should also know that it loses efficacy the more it's taken. So
Yeah.
like I think 3 times for an entire year, it starts to gradually lower after that. So make sure you know stuff like that.
Well, you shouldn't take any more after that,
Yeah.
actually. That's what I found out after I'd done it.
And I think in addition to that, I want to tell them to be patient,
Yeah.
be very thick-skinned, because a lot of these doctors, the experience that you'll have will be far from pleasant. You will be shunned, you will be treated oddly, but ultimately you just have to be really patient, try to take your time, find the resources that you need. There are a lot of places that are offering a lot of resources right now, especially like for teenage pregnancy. I know organizations like AHF are always looking out for young people so that they can have certain procedures done and do tests to make sure that their health is where it should be, completely free as well. So just make sure you are patient, you search for your resources, stay educated always, and of course just be thick-skinned, because there will be a lot of mean, negative comments that you will receive, but the best thing you can do is just take it all with a grain of salt and just keep your eyes on your goal, which is I need this to make sure that I'm safe and I remain child-free.
Yeah. That's good.